Good morning. Mourning is the price we pay for having the courage to love others. Even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex and too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit of our loved ones that they gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or even tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hours, we know that some of their light and their warmth will always be with us, bringing comfort and courage, and in the fullness of time, healing and peace. We remember Elaine and join our hearts together to give comfort and strength to her family and friends. Psalm 15 epitomizes Elaine's righteous nature throughout her 95 years of life. Adonai mi yagor ba'ohalecha, mi yishkon b'har kodshecha. Adonai, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain. Those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. It is my honor now to call forward Dana and Shelley to say a few words about their grandmother.
You're starting.
I know. As Dana and I were writing this, we thought that our grandma would say that this is horrible day. And it is a sad day, but we're here to celebrate the amazing life of a woman that lived life to the fullest. A woman who loved to travel, eat at fine restaurants, and spend time with her kids and grandchildren and great-grandchildren. She did all of the things, often and in style. She loved her family and friends deeply and was fiercely loyal to anyone she held dear.
We can't talk about our grandma without talking about Grandpa. When he was living, there was no married couple that was more in sync. Both our grandma and grandpa made sure that we experienced as many things as possible, learned proper fine dining etiquette, it's very important, and traveled as many places as they could manage. Grandma's energy was endless. She quite often wanted to keep going long after we were completely tired out.
When we would visit her house, she had a full itinerary planned each time. Museums, zoos, the quadrangle, the Alamo, and all the best restaurants were regulars each time we visited. Although she had strict rules for us, which she would be dying that I have gum in my mouth, there were a lot of special privileges we got when we went to see Grandma and Grandpa. Cake for breakfast, of course, all of our favorite junk food, Pringle and cream cheese sandwiches. If you haven't tried, it's a must. And riding on the armrests and the car. How that was ever comfortable or legal, we're not sure. We're part of the privileges of visiting our grandparents.
As we grew into adults, instead of week-long visits, we had hour-long phone conversations with Grandma, where she wanted to know every tidbit of our lives. She was always so proud of our professional achievements, and she remembered every detail we shared with her. When we had kids of our own, she told Scott that he was going to be driving her to Austin on a regular basis to see her great-grandchildren, and that they did. Each time, she brought her famous fudge squares, Toll House cookies, enchiladas, or some other treat. When she could no longer stand and bake, she sat in the kitchen and she told Scott what he should do to make the treats so she could bring them. While there is no doubt this is a sad day, Grandma would want us to celebrate her wonderful life and continue to live ours to the fabulous extent that she lived hers.
That's it, she says.
Scott is going to come up and say a few words about his mother now.
There was a very important question that my mother would ask every day, and this question had to be answered before anything else happened that day or night. And the question was, where are we going to supper? And it was a kind of a trick question also, because it could not be the same place that was the night before. So it might be Jason's, it might be Chinese food, it might be Mexican food, it may be Pisano's, but whatever it was, it could not be the same place. That would be just a total sin to go to the same place twice in a row. There was one exception, and that was Jason's, because you could have a baked potato one night, or the salad the other night, or a sandwich and soup the other. And so that was one exception. Larry pointed out that Mom worked a lot, and she did. She worked in the store on Houston Street with my father, and she did work a lot, but it never seemed to me that she worked so much, because she was always there as a den mother, and when we blasted off in space in elementary school, she would bring a portable, not so portable, television to the class so that we could all watch the space blasting off. And so she was always there, whether it was driving me to a horseback riding lesson or a guitar lesson or whatever it was. She was always there, so it didn't seem to be that she was working a lot, but she did work a lot. And I've now wondered how I'm going to learn any more new songs, because I would always take a song that I thought I knew to my mom and said, "Okay, Mom, here are the lyrics. See if I know the song." And I'd be about 2 or 3 lines into it. She'd go, "Wrong." And I go, "What? It's a something, not the something." I go, "Mom, it's okay." No, I thought you learned this. So we'd practice it until I knew the song, and it had to be exactly right. And so I'm wondering if I'm ever going to be able to learn another song yet. Manners and grammar were very, very important. And I can remember one time, I guess, I'm about 8 years old, and I was at Bill Goodman's house, Billy, and we spent the day playing or whatever, and my mom came to pick me up, and she goes, "Did you thank Mrs. Goodman?" And I think I said, "Why, she didn't do nothing." And that was, I learned right then that she had you into her home, and she didn't do nothing. What, are you going to start saying these ones and those ones now? And she said, anytime you speak, when you're grammatically incorrect and you speak, it hurts my ears, and it should hurt yours too. And so I've always tried to speak, at least I try not to say, me and him are going to go someplace. My mom was fearless, especially if I would be playing a gig somewhere here in town or whatever. She had no compunction about coming up to the bandstand while I'm singing a song right in the middle of it and go, "What's that song you're singing? My friends can't hear you. You're in the dark." What? And I'm singing a song, and goes, "And what is that song you're singing?" And sing something with some pep into it. And I'd be sitting there and be playing just right along and going, and sing louder. They can't hear you. And I would go, "Well, the management just said to turn down." No wonder. And so that didn't matter where I was playing. Some of you might know I was an Elvis impersonator on the Golden Girls. And this was a full production for Golden Girls. I was the head Elvis, and there were 9 extra Elvises, one of them being Quentin Tarantino. And this was about as big time as it gets. I'm in a gold lame suit, and hair that was worn by Kurt Russell. And so it was, the epitome of big time. So we finished the performance. It's the last scene of the show. My parents were there, of course, and my mom, so I met them. They were coming out of the audience, and my mom goes, "That's not how you do Elvis. I've seen you do Elvis a million times. There's no pep into it. You're just like, you're just like laying there, but you're not, well, what's the matter with you?" And I said, "Well, Mom, this is the way the director wants me to play it, and, I'm not the star of the show." "Well, doing it that way, I guess not." And so then we would look at each other and laugh about it. And Mama, she loved to travel and made friends wherever she went. Not only did she visit them there, she stayed in their home, and then they would come to the United States from England and Scotland both, and visit them there. She always had her hair done, her nails done every Friday, and that was very important to her. When she grew up, she grew up in very close to here in Alamo Heights, and her father taught her how to drive, I think at the age of 13, and she learned to drive at Bassey and McCullough because that's where paved roads ended in San Antonio at that time. She called her parents by their first names, Anise and Dave. And I know it was spelled Anais, and Anise's friends called her by Anais, but Mom always said Anise and Dave, and it was no disrespect, it was just the way she did it, and that's the way that my brother and I did it, and it was always, so she always called her parents by their first name, and I learned later that that was kind of odd, but it seemed totally normal to us. Yogi Berra, the noted philosopher, once said that he always went to other people's funerals so that they would go to his. And I see all my friends and her friends. People say that you're lucky to have one best friend, but that's not true. I have so many here that I see, Tom, Tim Duff, and George Down, and Butch and Marcia came from Phoenix and Los Angeles, and all of you here. I'm not going to name everybody, but you know who you are, and I see you there. Remember me, and I thank you so much, really. And I know there's a million other things I wanted to say. She did the crossword puzzles, both of them every day, the Sudoku and the Crypto Quip, the word jumble, and she did them as long as, as she could. And I've heard some people say, "Oh, Scott, you take care of your mother so, you're so proud and everything, and you've done this and that." I didn't do anything. They did. My parents did all the heavy lifting. They were responsible. They worked hard. They knew how to manage their money. They never bought one thing on time except the house, because to them paying interest was a sin. And so they made sure that they were all I had to do was not blow all their money and blow my mom's money. I was no hero about anything like that. So they were the heroes completely. My mom took care of my brother when he was sick. You drove him everywhere, had to get his prescription. The kind of person my mom was, my brother had to take morphine all for the last few years of his life, all the time. And my mom, one time, lost the prescription and had to have it refilled. And the next day, the police knocked on the door. And when my mom opened the door, and the policeman saw my mom and said, "Thank you very much, ma'am. Have a good day," and just walked away because they saw that, they saw her and immediately recognized that this was, a legitimate, and this is not someone who was trying to get over on anybody. My mom, she was incapable of telling a joke. And I think the reason is because when you tell a joke, you set up a false premise to have a payoff at the end. And my mom, she couldn't say anything false. It was just against her nature. I remember one time I said, "Is there Santa Claus?" And all she could do was say, "What do you think?" "Yeah, there is." I might have been 15 at the time, but But anyway, the thing is that she was incapable of saying anything false at all. She would say, either you're honest or you're not. And anyway, I thank all of you for coming. It means a lot to me. And I'm done.
Our rabbis taught that there are 3 crowns: the crown of Torah, the crown of priesthood, and the crown of royalty. But they emphasized that the crown of a good name excels them all. The book of Ecclesiastes says, "Tov Shem Mishemen Tov." A good name is to be treasured above precious oil. Wealth, health, even life passes away, but a good name lives forever. This is true for Elaine Mills Gale, a woman who possessed a good name and who will be remembered for a very long time. Whether it was as a friend, a mother, a grandmother, or a great-grandmother, her energy and personality will bring forth good memories always. Elaine was the picture of a proper Southern lady. She never cursed. She was always dressed to the nines, or 90s like she was for her 90th birthday party, and had a way of taking care of you just like a stereotypical Jewish mother. She placed a large emphasis on education and was proud of being a National Honor Society member at Alamo Heights High School and then graduating from Sophie Newcomb, now Tulane. She wanted her sons and granddaughters to be smart, get all the education they could, and to sound smart when speaking or writing. Her smarts shone through in her savvy business skills, particularly in keeping the books and later in real estate. She worked all the time at the clothing store and continued that work ethic until her decline just a few short years ago. Her organization permeated everything she did as she and LM kept track of their gas mileage, did their banking to the penny, completed puzzles, and planned itineraries and schedules. Dana and Shelley joked that when you went on trips with Elaine, they weren't vacations, as every minute was scheduled out so you didn't waste time and could get in all the sights. Elaine was so organized that just 5 short years ago, she demanded there be place cards for each guest for her 90th birthday party because she felt it was the right thing to do. Elaine was also fiercely loyal, going to the same hairdresser and nail technician every week for about 30 years. She was a social butterfly and loved to entertain and spend time with her friends, some of whom she had in her life for 80+ years. One of the things people would say about Elaine is that she couldn't tell a lie. In some ways, that was really wonderful. In other ways, you always knew what she was thinking, for better or for worse. That never stopped anyone from loving her. In fact, it made her more lovable. Being a mother was the right thing for Elaine. It fit her. She was the mother who spoke her mind and would give you advice, but then let you figure out your own way. She was a caregiver through and through as she took care of her son, Rob. She was endlessly proud of Scott, even when she gave him a hard time about his chosen profession of a musician. She loved entertaining their friends and made sure she baked and worked on crafts as the den mother. As much as she worked at this clothing store, she was always present for her boys. Every play and event, you knew Elaine would be in attendance. She demanded a lot from her boys and also showed them what it means to be resilient and independent. While Elaine could showcase her independence by grabbing a hammer and nail and fixing something right away on her own, she had a deep love and mutual respect for her husband, LM, May his memory be for a blessing. They were married for 55 years and loved spending time together and traveling all over the world. They showed each other unconditional love and used to joke, "Who else would have us?" as they realized they were quirky in their own ways, but loved each other for it. They presented a united front in every major life decision, doling out advice, but supporting you no matter what. When the two met, it was because their grandmothers set them up. Elaine and LM got married in 1945 in Fort Worth, and they had to find a home that would accommodate their growing family. They found one at a decent price that was right next to a junkyard and called it good. She would also reminisce that she and LM did not have a car, but they each had a horse to get around. They made everything work and made sure that whatever they wanted, they could have. As a grandmother for Dana and Shelley, she was immensely proud of and excited to spend time with them whenever she could. When the girls would come over, Elaine would have all of their favorite foods arranged, no matter how long their stay would be. The girls played a ding-dong-ditch kind of game, which always cracked everyone up, even until a few years back. While Elaine was tough as nails, she was also a big softie and loved spoiling her granddaughters, especially with food. Cinnamon rolls and cake and brownies for breakfast, and dinners out when they visited. At the same time, there was no gum allowed in her house. She had quite a few rules, and while some of them could be broken, she felt that there was a right way to do things and a wrong way to do things, and she'd let you know which way you were doing it. One of her biggest rules was that they couldn't give up. She would sit with Shelley and do crosswords and wouldn't let her give up. She had to finish it. Elaine and LM took Dana and Shelley on spring break trips to instill in them a love of travel and of family, something that has definitely been passed down even to today. For her grandsons-in-law, Mark and Chip, Elaine treated them like they were her own and made sure they got the food they wanted, too. As a great-grandmother, Elaine was devoted and obsessed with Colton, Ryan, Charlie, and Shipley. She would get down on the floor to play with them, even into her 90s. She loved printing out pictures of them to have on hand and displayed in her home. She loved to spoil them, too. Elaine was a foodie. She loved to explore new places and try new cuisines. She was famous for her cookies and fudge squares, and her care packages to Dana and Shelley at GFC with the treats were legendary. Elaine also loved the theater and shopping, sometimes combining all her loves by traveling to see shows, go shopping, eat out, and be with family. Elaine had an extended family here at Temple Beth-El. She grew up here and even has her picture on the wall from her 1941 confirmation. She had a deep connection to her Judaism and loved being a part of this community. In this sentiment, I finish with a prayer. God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft, overwhelmed with sorrow and loneliness. But you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you we look for comfort and consolation. Heal us, O God, help us, O God, to see life as through windows that open us and open to an eternity. Let us understand that love abides, that our years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. The accomplishments of our loved ones become our inheritance, their ideals, our challenge, and inspiration. May we recognize that Elaine will live in our hearts as a sacred blessing forever. With this, we take a moment to remember Elaine the way that she would want to be remembered. We join together in the words of Psalm 23. They are on the cards that you received if you'd like to join with me. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We rise now for El Malei Rachamim, if you are able, our prayer asking God for love and caring, grace and compassion, consolation and protection. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamse Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfe HaShechina, Im Kiroshim Utehorim, Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim, Et Nishmat Yakiratenu Shalcha Leolama, Bala Rachamim, Yastireha Beseter Kanafav Leolamim, Vitzror Bitzror Achayim, Et Nishmatach, Adonai Hu Nachalatach, V'tanuach b'shalom al mishkavah, v'nomar Amen. God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace, together with the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold Elaine close to you forever, so that her soul may be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May she find a home with you, and may she rest in peace. And together we say, Amen. You may be seated. Interment will be immediately following after Elaine leaves. We will be able to recite Kaddish there as Elaine is placed into her eternal resting place. At 1 p.m., the family is inviting you to a reception at Elaine's home at 7500 Callahan, number 133, and the gate code is 1765. If you need this information again, feel free to ask a family member, Porter Loring staff member, or myself. At this time, I would like to invite the pallbearers to come forward.